back to Lamb's Cryptoverse. As usual, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe to us. So today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to try to talk about all these issues, like what the F is going on with Aptos. So I'm going to go over each issue, ones I found, one other people found. I'm going to go over them one by one. But instead of just talking about them, I'm going to spend a lot of time on screen, and I'm going to show you some websites talking about those details. And I'm even going to show you on Aptos Scan what's going on live, and including heat maps of what's going on with the price. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk to you about is the background. As most of you may know, Aptos and SUI, they're part of two projects coming out of Diem, which is formerly known as Libra, which was owned by Meta Platforms, which is was formerly known as Facebook. Got it? Now, Meta, formerly known as Facebook, sold both platforms, basically both projects. They sold SUI and Aptos to Silvergate that got them at a really good price, under $200 million. Actually, it was $180 million to be exact. Then they flipped them and did some raising. I'm not sure how much Silvergate owns of Aptos, but basically they raised a lot of money, $350 million from VCs, and then gave some seed money, and then they put them out to investors like you and me, and of course at a much higher price. And that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of issues that people have. So we're going to go to the screen so you can see everything here rather than looking at my face. The first thing I want to tell you about is today we had a very good day for crypto. This is one of the largest gaining days that crypto has had in months. But out of maybe coincidence, I don't know, Aptos is actually the biggest decliner. So that's just something for you to know. And they had a very bad offering launch because they declined sharply during the launch because there was so many issues. And I'm going to talk to you about all those issues now. And here we go. Aptos gets off to a shaky start. And let me talk to you about those issues one by one. First of all, as I mentioned, they had $350 million in funding from the usual suspects. I don't think I need to tell you who it was. It's A16Z, basically. What's Mark Howard? Of course, I'm forgetting his name now, but Howard and Mark Andreessen. I don't know how I forgot that name. But basically, it's the usual suspects of investors, and you can see them here. A16Z isn't showing up, but they're definitely here. And what happened was, the issue number one is they claimed 160,000 TPS. And you can see right here on the left column, it's 160,000, which is huge. And then it says current TPS 4,200. But if you go on their Aptos Explorer, it was only like 4 TPS. And I've been watching this every day. It's been creeping up. This is the highest I've seen. So now it's 18.5 TPS. But the point is, it's much, much lower than they claimed. Now, I'm not saying they need to be at 160,000 transactions per second, but they said they would be at 4,200. You can see here, 4,200 per second, and they're not at that TPS at all. And they also said they would have time to finality of less than 1 second. And I don't know if we could see that here. I don't see that here. Maybe it's somewhere else. So let's go to the next point. So that's the first issue. The second issue is that they said they had 20,000 nodes, which to me sounds impossible for a chain that's just starting out. And there's a lot of issues with that. The first issue is that, let's go back here. The first issue is that they have 3 types of nodes. So it's very confusing knowing what they mean by nodes. They have the validator node, the validator full node and a public full node. And so they said 20,000, but when I go onto their Explorer, it says 102 active validators. We're not really explaining what that means. And this, when I click on information, it still doesn't explain it. So it's not clear at all. So that's the second issue. They're not as decentralized as they claimed. The third issue is that prior to the launch, they did not release, at least a week in advance, there was no release a week or a month in advance, or whatever, of their distribution or their token economics. Only after someone on Twitter tweeted that there's no, you can see here, no information, there's false advertising, lack of transportation, huge VC token allocation. Only then, after this was released, just prior to the launch, then they, I can go down here, then they introduced their blog. They put on their blog what their tokenomics actually is. So that was not good. And let's go to my next point, airdropping. Let's go back here. Aptos had an airdrop announcement of, if you go down here, it's 23 million, right here, 23.5 million tokens. So let's say about 20 million tokens to round it out. But half of those went to early investors and devs. So that was a little bit of cronyism. So that was yet another issue with the Aptos launch. And then we have another issue, and I talked to you about this, that the token supply was not released until just prior to the launch of the Aptos token. And the issue I have here is they mentioned 82% of the tokens are staked. But what do they mean by staking? I think they mean locked. Because staking usually has to do with validators confirming transactions. So this is yet another issue with the launch of an information with Aptos. And lastly, it looked like there was a hit and run by venture capitalists because as soon as they, as you know, if you look here, before we go to the next point, if you look here, there's a huge inflation on this. The vesting schedule is unbelievable. It goes from, I don't know what this is, half a million coins. I mean, not half a million, 250,000 coins. It just goes up into multiples. So the inflation is huge. You can see we reach over 500,000 coins by November 2024. But the thing is here, early investors and the VCs, they're locked. They cannot sell. So there's another issue about the listing of perpetual futures. So basically, when these perpetual futures are listed by FTX, for example, these VCs that cannot sell because they're locked according to the schedule here, they cannot sell, but they can sell futures on this. So when the coins drop, they can take advantage of that because they're selling futures. So there's a lot of issues there. Now, it's not all bad news. Aptos has some unique factors, positive factors. Number one, they have their own programming language called Move, which is similar to Rust. It's because it's based on that. And Rust, as you know, is used by Solana and Neo. It's a very good programming language, but it doesn't have too many devs. There's a lot of competition for developers. And it has advantages over Solidity, which is used by EVM, by basically the Ethereum platform. And it has an advantage because it lowers fees and it's safer. So Move is a better language. And then there's another positive. I'm not a programmer, but there's another positive. If you read the white paper, there's a positive in terms of the BFT, their consensus, and their parallel execution. They have a way of grouping trades that make a grouping trades, basically transactions, so that they can validate, confirm them in a parallel manner, so it goes quicker. That basically it goes faster. This reminds me a little of layer 2, basically, in sharding, but it's not. And so I want to go back to this. Before we conclude, I want to talk to you about this. Here, if you look, we have Aptos ranked number 48. And this is it's actually a little ranked even higher because we've got stablecoins in this list by coin market cap. So remember, Aptos and Sui, the other blockchain owned by Meta, was sold for $180 million to Silvergate. Now, all of a sudden, even after it's declined 9%, it's worth $1.1 billion. So my question to you is it worth $1.1 billion? Do we need yet another layer 1 blockchain? I think if it wasn't for Meta Platforms being forced to sell Sui and Aptos, monies would not have been put into layer 1s by venture capitalists. There's only interest in Aptos and Sui because Meta had to sell them. So my point is we don't need another layer 1 unless Aptos is that much better than other layer 1s like Avalanche, Phantom, Solana, and of course Ethereum. What's the point to have another layer 1? And remember, because of the network effect, there's lots of apps already out there. There's lots of addresses already on these other layer 1s. So do we need yet another layer 1 during this crypto winter? Actually, during crypto winters, I think we should be doing two things. Number one, we should be working on making existing layer 1s safer, and that's susceptible to hacks. And number two, we should be focused on those dApps, right? Those apps, those applications that are on layer 1 apps, or the ones that are on Polkadot or layer 0. We should be working on those applications, right? On developing those. We shouldn't be working on layer 1s. So to me, Aptos and Sui is just something that they had to get rid of. You know, the Facebook had to get rid of it, and even the VCs might want to get rid of it too. And maybe it looks like Silvergate flipped it like real estate. So to me, I see very little in terms of positives for Aptos, yet I see a lot to lose. So very little to gain and a lot to lose for Aptos. Well, thank you all for listening here at Lem's Cryptoverse, and I'll see you later.